Incredible act of kindness revealed. He fixed a stranger's truck, then 3 black SUVs surrounded him. Jack had always believed that kindness could change the world. As the dawn broke over the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, he rose early, the sun trickling through the small window of his cramped but cozy home. He threw on his work clothes, which still bore the grease stains from yesterday's battle with an old engine. Today would be no different. He put in a hard day's work at his auto shop, the only legacy he inherited from his late father. Hard work and honor coursed through his veins like blood. He had to show his son, Tommy, that values mattered in this world. With each tick of the clock, Jack felt the weight of the town's struggles. Desolate storefronts bore witness to dreams that once burned brightly, now flickering in the weight of economic hardship. As he loosened the bolts on a customer's rusted-out sedan, he thought about how everyone here shared the same story of sacrifice and hope, woven together by a community that had seen better days. Mid-morning, he looked up to see an elderly man waving from the side of the road. Jack abandoned the worn-out car in the shop, stepping outside. The man's pickup, a once proud vehicle now rusted by time, sat broken and forlorn. Without a second thought, Jack walked over. The sight tugged at his heart. The man reminded him of his father, weathered, but full of stories that lingered in the air like an old tune. "You need a hand there, sir?" Jack asked, a genuine warmth spilling from him. "Sure would, son," the veteran said, his voice gravelly yet soft, filled with gratitude. Jack invited the man Mr. Jenkins into his shop, offering to polish up the truck free of charge. As he worked, they shared stories of resilience, both recalling moments of service and the cost of sacrifice. Jack's chest swelled with pride, evoking memories of his father teaching him that love for one's neighbor ran deeper than any paycheck. But in the midst of this warmth, an ominous rumble broke the peace. Jack's heart froze as 3 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot, engines thundering like impending doom. They bore the logo of a corporate giant infamous for swallowing small businesses whole. The figures clad in suits stepped out, their demeanor cold and intimidating. Jack felt his chest tighten. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a confrontation. He knew this was a fight for more than just his livelihood. It was a battle for the very soul of Maplewood, a town struggling to survive. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack stood with Mr. Jenkins beside him, fear swirling in their eyes while neighbors began to gather, their expressions shifting from confusion to determination. The SUVs represented a much larger threat. This was the embodiment of everything they had fought against. They were stronger together, just like the town itself had always been. Suddenly, Mr. Jenkins spoke up, his voice firm. "I've got connections, people who believe in supporting small towns like ours." Jack's heart surged as he realized that this quiet old man wasn't just anyone. He was holding a lifeline. With a renewed sense of purpose, they formed a coalition, neighbors uniting their stories of struggle, igniting a fire of resistance against corporate greed. Jack felt the weight of history on his shoulders, every breath pivotal to this fight. The air crackled with urgency, and he knew that their futures hung in the balance. With the threat looming closer, Jack raised his voice, rallying his neighbors as hope flickered bright. Would they unite against these looming giants, or would they watch their dreams crumble in silence? The tension thickened, and Jack's resolve was put to the test. What would happen next in this high-stakes battle for their town? Jack's voice rang out, strong and clear against the gathering storm of uncertainty. "We can't just stand by and let them take what's ours." He searched the faces of his neighbors. Fear flickered in their eyes, but something else was stirring beneath the surface. Defiance. Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, his aged hands trembling slightly yet steady in their purpose. "We've lived too long under the weight of others' decisions. Remember the last town meeting? We talked about coming together, sharing our stories. Now is the time. The crowd started to murmur, little sparks igniting within them. Jack's chest tightened with hope. We can pull together. This town has heart, history, and people who care. A young woman named Lucy, always with a bright smile, raised her voice. What if we organize a town hall? We can voice our concerns together, make a plan. We need to show them we're not afraid. That's brilliant. Someone shouted. We can remind them we're a community. Jack could see the momentum building. The cold suits outside still loomed, but now they were met with a restless energy blooming among the townsfolk. Conversations bloomed like flowers breaking through concrete, voices rising stronger and steadier. One of the suit-clad figures shifted, glancing towards their SUVs, his brow furrowing. We didn't come here to negotiate, he called out, voice dripping with condescension. Our presence here is enough to ensure compliance. Jack clenched his fists. He could see the fear sinking back into the hearts of some in the crowd, but he wouldn't let that happen. Compliance? You think we're just going to roll over? This is our town, our lives at stake. He glanced towards Mr. Jenkins, who offered a nod, his eyes filled with unyielding spirit. Let us show them who we are. Jack shouted, a fire igniting within himself. Maplewood isn't just a dot on a map to us, it's our home. The crowd responded with cheers, a wave of sound that traveled like an electric shock through the air. Together, they were drawn into a collective force. The lead suit exchanged glances with his companions. Their smirks faded as they realized the resolve of the people standing before them. The townsfolk had banded together, and something deep inside Jack flourished, a connection with each heart beating alongside his, unified by hope and shared struggle. Yet, before they could gather their strength, a loud clattering noise echoed through the parking lot. Jack turned to see another truck barreling towards them, wheels kicking up gravel, the unmistakable markings of a local mechanic shop he recognized. People stepped aside as it skidded to a halt, engines panting. Jack's heart thumped in his chest. Who could this be? Was it another ally joining their cause? Or had they come to add to the chaos? The figure who climbed out of the cab was familiar, and as he pulled off his hat, Jack's heart sank. It was Kevin, one of the most influential members of the town council who had always seemed aligned with the corporate powers. What are you doing here? Jack shouted, uncertainty lacing his voice. Kevin held up his hands, trying to maintain order. I know why you're here. But what you're doing, you need to think about the ramifications. As the crowd's excitement began to dim, Jack felt a wave of dread wash over him. Was Kevin here to help or to sabotage their efforts? And what did he know about the corporate threat looming at their doorstep? Jack's heart raced as he awaited Kevin's next words. In that moment, everything felt at a tipping point. Would they hold their ground, or would fear and doubt push them back into the shadows? What secrets did Kevin carry that could change everything? Kevin took a step closer, his gaze shifting from Jack to the crowd. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog. You all need to listen to me, he urged, his voice carrying a blend of urgency and desperation. You don't fully grasp what you're up against. Jack opened his mouth to protest, but the worried murmurs of the crowd drowned him out. He felt like a balloon stretched too tight, ready to pop if he didn't get a grip on things. What do you mean? He managed to say, feeling the weight of every set of eyes on him. We're not just dealing with a company here, Kevin continued, glancing back at the black SUVs still idling ominously nearby. These people have connections, resources. They're not just going to walk away because we want them to. A thick silence engulfed them, and the sound of the wind seemed to whistle, a reminder of their vulnerability. Jack felt a knot tightening in his stomach. If we don't stand together, we'll lose everything, he declared, his voice cracking with conviction. This is our home. We're risking all for Maplewood, our families. Lucy stepped in beside Jack, her determination resilient. We have strength in numbers. We need to show them we won't be intimidated. Who's with us? She raised her fist, and a few neighbors joined her, echoing her gesture with a quiet resolve, but Kevin wasn't done. I'm not saying you shouldn't fight back. I just want you to be smart about it, he warned, taking another step forward. I came here to help. Is that your idea of help? Jack interrupted, frustration bubbling up. You've always sided with them. Kevin's expression shifted, showing a crack in his confident facade. I have my reasons, he replied, his tone softer now. You think I haven't seen what this company can do? They destroyed my uncle's business last year. I lost everything. The crowd fell silent, absorbing his words. Jack didn't know what to think. How could someone who was supposed to protect their interests also live in danger from the same forces? I'm here because I don't want to see this town go under, Kevin said quietly. He took a deep breath. I want to work with you all. But we need a solid plan, and we need to make sure we're prepared for anything. The murmurs resumed among the townsfolk, uncertainty and curiosity swirling through them. Jack sighed, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on him. He watched Kevin closely. There was something genuine in his eyes, maybe even desperation. Let us have that town hall, Jack suggested. But we'll only do it if you're truly on our side, Kevin. No hidden agendas. Kevin nodded, the tension easing just a bit between them. I promise, he responded, though Jack knew promises could be fragile. The stillness among the group felt electric, buzzing with new possibilities. Then suddenly, the SUVs roared to life, their engines growling like a pack of wolves. Jack's heart skipped a beat. What are they doing? Kevin's brow furrowed. They might be mobilizing. We need to move, now. The crowd started to shift, confusion setting in. Jack's instincts kicked in. Follow me. He called out, eyes scanning for paths to escape, adrenaline surging through him, but deep down, Jack wondered if they were truly ready to fight back. Was this just the beginning of something bigger? As they prepared to scatter, he locked eyes with Kevin, questions swirling in his mind. Could he trust this man who had floated between both worlds? And would they find safety? Or were they headed for an inevitable confrontation? The moment felt electric, teetering on the edge of action and uncertainty. What would happen when they faced the full force of those black SUVs? Jack felt his pulse quicken as he led the group away from the gathering. The townsfolk huddled close, eyes darting toward the looming SUVs like moths around a flame. Panic sprouted in him, tangling with determination. Over here, he urged, veering left into the narrow alleyway between two old brick buildings. The wind howled, kicking up debris and echoing the chaos in his mind. He glanced back, heart pounding. The SUVs had begun moving, engines roaring to life like thunder following a storm. They rolled forward, slowly but menacingly, blocking the main street and cutting off their escape. Where do we go now? Lucy panted, her breath visible in the cold air. Just keep moving. Jack shouted, scanning for an exit. But their options dwindled. The dimly lit alley felt claustrophobic, as if the walls were closing in, just like the danger behind them. Kevin emerged at his side, breathless but resolved. We need to split into smaller groups. Confuse them. He proposed, urgency tinging his voice. Jack nodded, the idea snapping a thread of hope through the whirlwind of fear. Okay. You and Lucy take the right, head to the park. Jack instructed. I'll lead the others down to the river. We can find cover there. As they hurried to execute the plan, Jack felt that knot in his stomach twist tighter. Would they be able to make it? Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. He dragged his focus back to action. The little things mattered now. Suddenly, a shout rang out behind them. One of the SUVs had turned the corner, its headlights piercing the dusk like a predator closing in. Go! Run! Jack yelled, sprinting away from the widening threat. He bolted through the crowd, emotions colliding. Fear, anger, and the determination to protect his home surged within him. The laughter and chatter of Maplewood flashed in his mind like a photo album. Summer barbecues, kids playing in the streets, the annual town festival. They couldn't let this end. The cries of his neighbors charged him forward. They stumbled and slowed as they looked back, but Jack kept his eyes fixed ahead. They were a family. They had to protect each other. "Let us go," he urged, and they poured from the alley, reaching the riverbank. The water churned darkly, shivering with the evening's chill. But then he heard a metallic sound of wheels crunching gravel. The SUVs had found them. What now? One of the townsfolk gasped, trembling beside him. Jack searched for a way across the river. There had to be something. He spotted a rickety old boat tethered at the edge of the river, barely afloat. That could work. He pointed. "We can use it to get across." "Are you crazy?" a voice protested. "It's a death trap." But there was no time to argue. The insistent growl of the engines grew louder. Jack's heart raced as he gestured toward the boat. "We either take this chance or get caught. Move." As they clambered onto the boat, Jack's heart sank when he caught sight of Kevin in the distance, still standing by the alley's mouth. His expression was torn. Was he staying behind to ensure their escape? Jack felt a lump in his throat. "Kevin! Come on!" he shouted desperately, but Kevin hesitated, frozen in a moment of indecision. Jack's stomach churned. Did he trust him? Or was this the end of their fragile truce? Before he could call out again, the SUVs surged forwards, and Jack realized they had seconds to escape. He shouted one last time in panic, and as Kevin turned to sprint towards them, the world around Jack faded away. They were leaving Maplewood behind in the harsh embrace of uncertainty. What awaited them on the other side of the river? Would they find safety, or had they only traded one danger for another? The boat rocked gently as the townsfolk clambered aboard, their fear palpable, a living, breathing thing that filled the air. Jack held his breath, counting heads, praying they had made it in time. Each face that surfaced from the shadows brought an exhale of relief. They were still together. "Come on, Kevin!" he shouted, desperation creeping in. He could see the anxiety etched across Kevin's face as he raced toward the riverbank, dodging debris and the fading light. The SUVs growled in pursuit, the sound echoing ominously in the dusk. Finally, Kevin dove into the boat, panting hard. "Got everyone?" he gasped. "All but one," Jack replied, glancing back at the now growing horde of vehicles. He knew they couldn't waste another second. The boat was small, barely enough for them all, but they had to risk it. With trembling hands, Jack turned to the group. "Row! Get us to the other side. Now!" They pushed off the muddy bank, the chill of the water splashing up against them, mingling with their rising fear. Kevin grabbed an oar, and Lucy followed suit, thrusting the water behind them in frantic strokes. The river churned below, reflecting their ragged breaths and the fading embers of the day. Jack coached them through the chaos, his heart racing each time they heard the rumble of engines approaching. "I can't swim," a woman cried out from the back, her eyes wide with terror. "Just hold on. Keep paddling," Jack shouted, but his voice felt small against the wall of sound pressing in around them. The reality of their peril was harsh. One jolt, one mistake, and they could capsize. Just as they found a rhythm, the first SUV screeched to a stop at the bank, revving its engine like a predator ready to pounce. Jack felt a chill that ran deeper than the cold water lapping against them. Panic surged as the harsh beams of headlights stabbed through the evening darkness, illuminating their fragile raft. "What do we do?" someone whispered, their voice quaking like the boat beneath them. "Keep moving." Jack gritted his teeth. "They can't cross the river. Just keep rowing." He forced determination into his voice, though his insides were churning. He could feel the weight of his friends' lives resting on his shoulders. He glanced back, watching as figures poured from the SUV. He could see them gathering at the water's edge, looking for a way to pursue. Faster! Kevin barked, his strokes becoming frantic. But the more they rowed, the farther the bank seemed to stretch away. Jack's arms burned, and dread clutched at his heart. They were on the edge of something bigger than them all. Then, in the distance, he spotted a glimmer of light. "Look!" he said. "Over there." It was a small cabin on the other side of the river, just beyond the trees lining the shore. Maybe they could shelter there, regroup, plan their next steps. But as their boat glided closer, Jack's pulse raced. What if it was empty? Or worse yet, what if it held more danger? "Keep going," he urged, desperation lacing his voice. Every row felt like a step into the unknown, but they had no choice. They had to cross, had to reach safety. The group pushed harder. The headlights from the SUVs flickered like angry fireflies, piercing through the gathering darkness. They were seconds away from being spotted. "Come on," Jack pleaded silently. "Just a little further." As they neared the cabin, Jack felt the air grow heavy with uncertainty and hope. What lay beyond those walls? Would it be a refuge, or was it just another trap? The moment they reached the bank, they jumped out, scrambling onto the shore, panting and soaked. Jack turned to his companions, adrenaline surging. "Stick together and be quiet." But just as they readied themselves to move, a voice broke through the stillness, cold and commanding. "Where do you think you're going?" Jack's heart seized in his chest. They weren't alone. What awaited them inside that cabin? Would they find salvation, or had they stumbled right into the jaws of danger? Jack's heart raced, the sound of that voice piercing through his fear like a knife. He turned slowly, hoping against hope that the figure standing before them would be a friendly face. But the silhouette was menacing, backlit by the headlights of the SUVs still lingering at the riverbank. The moonlight cast a cold glow on a man, tall and menacing, with a posture that screamed authority. "I asked you a question," he repeated, stepping closer, a predatory glint in his eyes. "What do you want?" Jack managed to say, trying to keep his voice steady. He felt the weight of his companions behind him, their breaths quickening, mirroring his own growing panic. "Relax." The man raised his hands, a cruel smirk spreading across his face. "You're safe, for now. Until you tell me why you're here. Please, we just need to find shelter. We're running from those people." Jack pointed back toward the SUVs, still parked ominously at the water's edge. The man chuckled, casting a glance over his shoulder as if the distant vehicles were an old joke. "You think they care about some little cabin in the woods? They'll come for you if they want you. We aren't here to cause trouble," Lucy spoke up, her voice shaky but firm. "We just want to be safe. You can't let them take us." The man studied Lucy, his eyes narrowing as if he were weighing the sincerity of her plea. For a long moment, the air was thick with tension, and in that pregnant silence, Jack felt the fear and desperation of his group pressing against him like a wall. "Fine," the man finally said, breaking into a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You can stay, but you'll need to earn your keep." He motioned for them to follow. "Follow me. And keep quiet." Jack exchanged quick glances with Kevin and Lucy, their expressions a mix of uncertainty and cautious hope. This man might not be their enemy, but they couldn't trust him entirely. They needed a plan, a way out. They stepped into the cabin, the welcome warmth striking them immediately, a stark contrast to the coldness outside. Inside was sparse but functional. It looked like it hadn't been used in quite some time, dust hanging in the air like aging memories. A single table stood in the middle, surrounded by barely visible chairs. "Do you have food?" someone whispered, clearly unable to suppress their hunger. Food felt like a minor luxury in that moment, but Jack knew it wasn't a time for comfort. They needed to keep their guard up. Maybe, the man responded. But first, you need to prove you won't be a liability. What do you mean? Jack asked, his brows furrowing. There's a supply drop a few miles from here. I was going to check it tonight. But I can't go alone. Too risky. Kevin stepped forward, determined. We'll go with you. Whatever you need, we'll help. A sly smile crept across the man's face. You're eager, aren't you? Good, I could use some fresh hands. Jack's stomach twisted. He didn't like the idea of abandoning the relative safety of the cabin. What if it's a trap? We just barely escaped a pack of wolves. The man's cold eyes flashed. Then you can decide to stay here and wait for those SUVs to come searching for you, but let me warn you, this town is ruthless and won't stop until they find what they're looking for. His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Jack looked around at his friends, his family. They were all scared, exhausted. There was no good option. All right, Jack said finally, swallowing his fear. We'll go. As they prepared to leave, a distant rumble echoed through the woods. It made everyone freeze in place. What was that? Lucy whispered, clutching her brother's arm. Something's coming, the man said, his tone shifting. It may be your friends, or it may be trouble. Either way, we need to move. Jack's heart raced again. Were they stepping into yet another trap? What was waiting for them outside? Let us go, he urged, sensing tension build in every corner of their group. Together, holding on to each other's resolve, they stepped into the uncertain night once more. What would they face on that treacherous path? Would this be the moment that changed everything for them, or lead them deeper into danger? The night air was thick with dread as they moved carefully from the cabin's warmth into the biting chill outside. Jack's heart thumped loudly in his chest, matching the uneasy thrumming of the distant rumbling. Shadows danced around them as they stepped onto the dirt path, the moonlight flickering through the canopy of trees overhead. The man led the way, moving with confidence that felt oddly reassuring, yet every step felt precarious. Lucy lingered close to Jack, her hand gripping his tightly. He could sense her fear, a mirrored reflection of his own. Kevin walked beside them, a determined look masking the uncertainty churning inside. Stay close to me. Stick together, Jack whispered, his voice barely above a breath. The man ahead glanced back, a hint of annoyance swirling in his narrowed eyes. Don't dawdle, he snapped. We don't have time for hesitation. Jack bit back a retort. They were in this together, whether he liked it or not. The path twisted through the trees, darker than the inside of the cabin, and every crackling twig underfoot made Jack tense. What was waiting for them ahead? What's it like at the supply drop? Kevin asked, trying to break the intimidating silence. Just some supplies, the man replied curtly. Food, equipment, things people left behind. He shot them a sideways glance. Not much good to the town anymore, but it might help you all survive the night. Jack's mind raced with possibilities and doubts. Each word tossed around memories of his old life comforts he'd taken for granted. He glanced at Lucy, who looked back at him with hopeful eyes. Would they find something useful to take back? Suddenly, the rumble they had heard earlier grew stronger, and the man perked up, his eyes scanning the space ahead. Quick! We need to hide, he whispered urgently, dropping to his knee next to a cluster of thick bushes. They followed suit, crouching low and pressing against the cold earth. Jack barely dared to breathe. The sound of heavy engines grew louder, echoing through the obscuring shadows, until a trio of black SUVs rolled into view, their headlights cutting through the darkness like spears. Those are them, the man muttered under his breath, a familiar tension returning to his demeanor. Fear gripped Jack's insides. Were they tracking them? Had they followed their scent like wolves? From his hiding place, Jack watched with a pounding heart as the SUVs came to a halt. Doors swung wide, and figures spilled out, each one dressed in dark clothing, eyes shielded by caps and sunglasses. Jack felt his body tense instinctively, knowing that each movement could spell disaster. "What do we do?" Lucy whispered, her body shaking slightly next to him. Jack could only shake his head, unsure of how to answer her. "Just wait," the man replied, his voice low and steady. "We'll move when it settles down." As they stayed hidden, Jack's thoughts surged with frantic urgency. This was the moment of truth. Did they have enough time to escape? Suddenly, one of the figures approached the nearby trees, sweeping a flashlight across the ground. Jack's breath hitched as the beam flickered dangerously close to their hiding spot. The man's hand shot out, gripping Jack's arm, urging him to stay still, but then, something unexpected happened. The person with the flashlight paused, as if sensing a presence, something that didn't belong. Jack could hardly believe it when the darkly clad figure slowly began to walk away, returning to the huddle of men who were now deep in conversation. "What was that?" Lucy gasped, bewildered. "Just a distraction," the man breathed, his voice a mix of disbelief and admiration. "But we can't wait for long." Now, adrenaline coursing through him, Jack understood the risk they were about to take was monumental. If they moved too soon, they could be caught. But if they waited too long, their only chance of survival might fade away. "Are we ready?" he asked quietly, glancing to both Lucy and Kevin. Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself for the decision that loomed ahead. They'd either step deeper into danger or find a way to break free, but the promise of what lay at the supply drop might be their only hope. That he glanced back at the man, uncertainty mixing with determination. "Let us go." As they crawled from their hiding spot, the distant rumble from the SUVs was growing fainter, allowing a flicker of hope to ignite in Jack's heart. But just as they began to move, a piercing whistle cut through the air, chilling them to the bone. Jack whirled around, his heartbeat racing as he caught sight of the figures now on high alert. "Move! Now!" he shouted, and the group surged forward into the looming darkness, not knowing if they were heading toward salvation or doom. With the threat now clearer than ever, what consequences awaited them up ahead? Would they escape the chaos or fall deeper into the clutches of danger? They sprinted through the darkness, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs amplifying the fear in Jack's heart. He glanced back, quickly noting the SUV headlights now pivoting in their direction. They had to get off the path, had to vanish into the forest. "Over here!" the man in front called, veering left towards a thicket of trees with gnarled roots. Jack followed, dragging Lucy and Kevin with him. The cold air burned in his lungs, each breath a desperate gasp as they ducked under low branches that clawed at their skin. "Stay low," Jack urged, pressing his body to the ground as they reached a small clearing, covered in heavy underbrush. The shadows tangled around them, offering a momentary sanctuary, but only if they could hold their breaths long enough. Jack's mind raced. They were on borrowed time, and it felt like the forest itself was holding its breath with them. He could hear the muffled voices of the men from the SUVs, growing closer, punctuated by the sound of footsteps crunching against the fallen leaves. "Where are they?" one of the figures shouted, his voice sharp and demanding. Jack could feel the weight of his panic pushing down on him, the heavy reality settling like a storm cloud overhead. Every second felt like an eternity. "They can't be far. Check the perimeter," another voice barked, heavier and more authoritative. Jack squeezed Lucy's hand tighter, feeling her shiver beside him. "We'll be okay," he whispered, though uncertainty gnawed at his insides. Then he turned to the man leading them, whose expression shifted to a grim determination. "We need to wait," the man said, almost to himself, his eyes darting as he scanned the area. Jack could feel the tension radiating off him. "If we can just hold out, they'll move on." But Jack knew it might only take one wrong move, one flickering light, one sound of vulnerability. The world felt so fragile, teetering on the brink of collapse. They were like shards of glass, ready to shatter at any moment. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed nearby as one of the men tripped over a hidden root. "Damn it! They're close!" he yelled, the urgency in his voice causing Jack to freeze. "Now! Go!" The man in front of Jack took off again, and without thinking, Jack surged after him, pulling Lucy and Kevin along. Heart pounding, he pushed himself harder, letting instinct guide him as they wove between the trees. The ground dipped sharply, and before Jack knew it, they were skidding down a slope, branches snagging at their clothes. He barely managed to regain his balance, desperately searching for signs of the SUVs. Where were they? Were they right behind them? At the bottom of the incline, they came to a small stream, water bubbling over rocks like a whisper of hope. "Cross!" the man shouted, motioning for them to jump into the icy water. But as Jack stepped in, the shock stole his breath, causing him to falter for a second. "We can't stop!" Kevin shouted, shoving him forward. Jack gathered every ounce of resolve and plunged deeper into the frigid water. Lucy followed, and he didn't dare look back, praying that this would disguise their trail. They scrambled to the other side, huddling against the cold, wet earth. Jack's heart thumped in his ears. He strained to hear the sounds behind them, the voices, the footsteps, anything that could give a clue if they were safe or trapped like animals. "What if they find us?" Lucy's voice trembled, laced with fear. "They won't," Jack insisted, though doubt loomed in the back of his mind. But just then, a flash pierced the trees, illuminating the darkness temporarily. Jack's breath hitched again as he spotted one of the figures standing at the edge of the water, scanning the ground. They all held their breath, praying the shadows would be their ally. "Make a run for it," the man commanded. Energy surged through Jack, fueling an instinct to fight a desperate surge of survival. Maybe they could escape this nightmare. As they launched themselves into the woods once more, Jack felt Lucy's grip slip, and a pang of fear gripped him. He could hear the shouting now, the voice of their pursuers, a chilling reminder of their peril. "Keep moving," the man called, but Jack's heart wrenched as he glanced back, searching for Lucy. Would they find her in this chaos? Or were they already too far gone? The weight of uncertainty hung heavily on his shoulders, and just as Jack reached for Lucy, he caught sight of something moving in the shadows, a threat sealing their fate. What lay ahead that could change everything? Jack's heart raced as he caught that flicker of movement in the shadows. It felt like time stopped for a moment, a heartbeat pulsing with dread and urgency. "Lucy!" he shouted, the panic spilling over in his voice. He could barely see her now, just a silhouette against the trees, her expression lost in fear. "Keep going," the man yelled again, motioning with an urgency that felt almost frantic. The command sparked something inside Jack, a surge of adrenaline mixed with sheer determination. He couldn't lose her. Not now. With one more glance back, he forced himself to take a breath. The figure he'd spotted in the shadows had vanished, swallowed by the night. But fear clung to Jack like a damp cloak. He couldn't shake the feeling that danger was never far behind. He stumbled forward, adrenaline fueling every step as Lucy's reassurances echoed in his mind. "Jack, please," Kevin called from up ahead. "We can't slow down." They pushed on, weaving between ancient, towering trees that loomed like sentinels above them. Each breath felt sharper now, the chill of the night settled deep into his bones. Moments stretched into eternity with each rustle of leaves echoing behind them, the sounds of pursuit ever present. "Look!" Their guide pointed ahead, breaking through the underbrush toward a small cabin nestled among the pines. The structure was old, with wooden beams and a rusty tin roof, but its door stood ajar, beckoning them with the promise of concealed safety. "Is it safe?" Lucy's voice trembled, but Jack saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. They had to try. He pushed forward, leading the way, rapidly scanning the area. Inside, the cabin reeked of age and neglect, dust motes dancing in the few beams of light from gaps in the boarded windows. An old table stood in the center, surrounded by mismatched chairs and scattered gear that hinted at previous lives lived there. "Check it out, see if there's anywhere to hide," the man instructed, leading Lucy and Kevin further in. Jack nodded, his senses heightened. He crouched low, heading toward a small storage space tucked behind the fireplace. He could feel the weight of the world pressing against him, each second agonizingly stretched but packed with necessity. Suddenly, the voices outside grew louder, more men now, shouting commands. Jack swallowed hard, his throat dry, limbs trembling. "They'll find us," he said under his breath, pressing his back against the wall. "Not if we're smart," the man replied, his eyes sharp with purpose. "Get behind these crates. If we can just wait them out, we might." The door suddenly swung open, dark silhouettes flooding the threshold. The man's face paled, realization striking like a lightning bolt. "Everyone, now!" he hissed, urgency spilling into panic. Jack dove with Lucy just as the figures stepped inside, their laughter echoing like a cruel joke. They cramped together, shoving themselves behind the crates, hearts thundering in unison. "What do we do?" Lucy whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. Jack could feel her breathing fast, a mirror of his own fear. "Stay silent," he urged, wishing he had more comforting words. But he felt as lost as she did. The men moved deeper into the cabin, their voices low, sinister. Jack's gut dropped with every moment they lingered. Hidden in their cramped space, time felt like a predator. It was now or never. Just then, a sudden crash, something outside, followed by hushed curses. Jack dared to peek through a gap. He saw shadows shifting, but beyond that, a sight that froze his breath, a figure, tall and imposing, striding forward. They seemed familiar, an almost magnetic presence in the dark. But confusion clawed at Jack's mind. Who were they? Friend or foe? In that split second, he felt the weight of uncertainty shift. With every passing moment, their fate lingered in the balance. Was there a way out of this nightmare? Would they have to fight after all? The answers hid just beyond the noise. What new questions would arise from their next act of desperation? Jack held his breath, heart racing like a freight train through a tunnel. The tension wrapped around him like a thick fog, each beat echoing the uncertainty lingering in the air. He watched the figures shift just beyond their hiding place, their shadows speaking of danger and menace. What awaited them on the other side of this cabin? A possibility of salvation or the crushing weight of their worst fears? "You've got to be strong," he murmured under his breath, wishing he could somehow impart soothing strength to Lucy and Kevin, who huddled beside him, hearts beating in rhythm. As the men rummaged through the cabin, Jack felt the weight of their lives resting heavily on his shoulders. Then came a whisper, a voice that cut through the noise. "Jack?" It was faint, but it sent shivers down his spine. "What?" He barely managed to breathe, feeling the fragile threads of their sanctuary vibrating with uncertainty. "Jack, it's me." The voice came closer, unmistakable now. "It's Tommy." His son's name sparked an immediate surge of adrenaline through Jack's veins, a stubborn ember reigniting in the darkest of nights. "Tommy," he cried out involuntarily, a desperate plea rising with the familiar whirl of emotions that always accompanied thoughts of his boy, fierce love, unwavering protection, a fear that gripped him anew. "Jack, stay down." The man hissed at him, fear edging his tone. Not now, but Jack heard his son's voice again, insistent, breaking through the menacing laughter of the figures who loomed nearby. Panic clawed at him, demanding action. "Tommy!" he called out, ignoring the need for stealth. Suddenly, the door swung wider, revealing a figure that made Jack's heart leap, a young boy with wide, determined eyes, illuminated against the darkness. "Dad! I came looking for you." That moment of recognition shattered the weight of dread hanging in the air. A squabble of emotions burst inside Jack, relief, pride, and worry coalescing. He edged forward, wanting nothing more than to fold his son into his arms. But logic restrained him. "Get back. he urged, knowing they were still in grave danger. Tommy didn't flinch. "We have to help the others." Jack's heart twisted with admiration. His young son had faced fear and danger to come after him. "We need a distraction," the man murmured beside him, urgency pounding through his tone. As if on cue, a distant roar echoed through the trees, rumbling like thunder, making Jack's chest thud with renewed hope. "Do you hear that?" The figures in the cabin paused, confusion flashing across their faces. Just outside, the sounds were louder now, the rumble of approaching engines grew stronger, and with it came a glimmer of opportunity. Jack's instincts clicked into place. "Now!" he urged, striking a balance between terror and determination. "Lucy, Kevin, follow Tommy. We'll draw them outside you with me, son." They rushed from their cramped hiding spot, the man charging ahead, leading the way. "Make noise. Get their attention," Jack yelled, his voice resonating with authority. Tommy sprinted next to him, pumping his small legs as adrenaline surged through him. "This way," he shouted, leading them outside as Jack set his sights on the figures still untouched by urgency, now visibly bewildered. He wanted to protect his son, this time, with a different kind of courage. "Over here," Lucy yelled, prompting Jack to urge the others into action as chaos erupted. They rushed past the figures, confusion rippling through their ranks, as Jack turned to see how many had followed them. The SUV engines roared, crescendoing with the media of danger echoed through the woods. Fear coursed through him, but he knew they had to keep moving. The figures that they had cowered from just moments ago scrambled, desperate to regain order. "Go! Move!" Jack shouted over the chaos, the need to protect his family and community fueling his voice. They all bolted into the trees, bounding through roots and muck. "Keep moving," he urged again, adrenaline surging as they splashed through the muddy ground, but just as they pushed further, one of the figures emerged, growling. "Something harsh." Jack locked eyes with Kevin, urgency flashing between them. They needed to hold the line, protect the others. Now wasn't the time to falter. "Together!" Jack shouted, gripping the uncertainty with defiance. "We won't back down." Kevin roared, echoing his sentiment, summoning the strength of the town and their will to fight back. With fervent ferocity, they surged past frightened, snarling men. "That's it. Don't stop." Jack coached his son and neighbors, their legs pounding against the earth, propelling them into freedom. Light filters through treetops, illuminating a path forward, whispering of hope, safety, and the next step on this precarious journey. Then, amidst the chaos, something snapped, a branch underfoot, a shout erupted, and suddenly the pursuit was reignited. Jack's heart raced again as he glanced over his shoulder, dread coiling around him. "Run!" he shouted, hope burning bright against the gathering darkness. They pushed through until finally, they reached another small clearing, breathless and wild. Jack turned to see the figures faltering, their momentum stopped by confusion and distraction. They made it at least, for now. As they huddled together, breaths mingling in the cool night air, Jack felt a shift. Their blossoming unity transformed swords into shields fueled by hope and desperation. They could survive, fight back, reunite, and reclaim their home. With determination shining in their eyes, Jack raised a fist. "Maplewood is our home, and we won't let it go without a fight." The rallying sound rose like an anthem, defiance echoing back to confront the looming threat. Together, they let the fire of resilience define them, not just for their town, but for each other, and every single soul that called Maplewood home. Unity was their weapon, and they stood ready to wield it. You all need to subscribe now to follow this unbelievable journey. Your support is crucial. Hit that like button without thinking. Let's boost this storyline. Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how this fight impacted you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with 5 friends. Show everyone what true strength looks like.